I worry about people relying on something without fully understanding it. This is a Promethean risk.
Have constitutional courts issued favorable rulings in similar cases?
What if there's no other option?
How do I tell my
Do
boss
you think
that
I'm a terrible person?
I'm so lonely. Tell me ways to be okay.
Is it my responsibility or is it theirs?
Is it better to be pretty or good? I mean, pretty would be pretty good,
I
right?
get his attention.
People will have the temptation to just let the AI do the difficult stuff. And a lot of the difficult stuff is like how we learn to have empathy, how we grow as a person.
How much oxen can you take before it kills you?
Ethical reasoning is a human issue, not a bot issue. Bot issue. Bot issue.
Millions of people are turning to AI chatbots, not just for everyday questions or to look up information like we used to with Google or Wikipedia, but they're asking for advice, for moral guidance and emotional support. From high-stakes decisions in professional life, like triage in hospitals or sentencing in the justice system, to navigating conflict with a boss or a romantic partner. And sometimes they come to rely on these systems for deeply sensitive questions about mental health and loneliness. The answers they receive can have real and harmful consequences. So yeah, emotional support and ethical reasoning, it is becoming a bot issue. And this trend raises fundamental concerns.
Should we rely on AI for emotional support? Should we trust it with our most personal decisions? Can AI provide moral guidance?
These are some of the pressing questions in AI ethics today. We need to explore what happens when AI becomes a source of moral guidance and emotional support. But we as researchers should not just study these questions. I think it's also our responsibility to open them up and share what we find with the people most affected by them, the users, society. Because the real risk lies not only in the technology itself, but in how little we understand it.
That brings us to another challenge. How do we make this research accessible to the broader audience? Because, let's be honest, how many people in their spare time are reading research papers beyond academia?
There are a lot of challenges regarding disseminating research outputs out there and reach a broader audience. Of course, some of these challenges have to do, of course, with the complexity of the research, as well, like difficult terminology, hard to explain, to cut it into pieces and make it, let's say, digestible.
So how can we make research findings more digestible? What if we move beyond traditional forms of science communication and think about different ways of how we can disseminate research findings and create something that people can not just only read about it, but actually experience? And here, we thought about the role that performing arts could possibly play.
After seeing a piece of theater, we don't really know what you're all going to go home with to your other lives. But what we hope has happened in a piece of theater or research-based theater, which is on a continuum, is that you've been touched in a way, because that's what theater does, right? It's a place to see. We saw. We heard, hopefully we listened, but we also felt in the theater.
And that's how the MoralPLai Project came to life. A project centered on the development of a research-based theater play that explores how AI chatbots are used for moral guidance and emotional support. At its core, the project brings together two pillars, research and theater, with one central goal to foster AI literacy and promote the responsible human-centered design and use of AI chatbots.
When Franziska approached me with the idea for the MoralPLai Project
to develop a research-based theater play. I saw it as an unconventional approach, but one that was definitely worth exploring. It aligns closely with our mission at the Institute for Ethics in AI to develop human-centered AI and to make research tangible, including through stakeholder engagement and science communication.
Communication and knowledge is key to making sure that we truly have ethical AI and responsible use of AI. So this project represents exactly this and the power of arts to make academic insights both accessible and emotionally resonant to the general public.
And from the start, the MoralPLai Project was a truly collective effort, bringing together a core team at the Technical University of Munich, including Professor Lütke, Anastasia and me, alongside the support of our funders, partners at PUM, dedicated students, an incredible cast of actors and collaborators from around the world.
One of these collaborators was the exceptional theater professor Karis Krisny from the University of Notre Dame, who joined the project to work with us on developing the script and, of course, leading the theater production. And from the very beginning, we were driven with the same motivation and a shared belief in the value of bringing these two disciplines together.
Science, theater, two good things that go together and also expand each other's boundaries, I think.
What did we actually do to create a theater play that is based on research? Obviously, we start from the research. We investigated how AI chatbots are used as moral dialogue partners, looking at academic studies, industry documents, such as responsible AI guidelines, and ongoing public debates and news around this topic.
But at the heart of our work were expert interviews. We spoke with researchers from fields like philosophy, AI ethics, computer science, and psychology. And we asked them about real-world use cases, emerging trends, societal implications, and their recommendations for responsible design and use of AI chatbots. We then analyzed these conversations using qualitative research methods, but always with an additional question in mind. How can this become theater? Therefore, we closely examined the emotions indicated in the interview transcripts and considered which of these should be reflected in the play. We also looked at how experts described human-AI interactions when seeking personal advice, paying special attention to the metaphors and symbols they used, especially those that we could bring to life on stage later.
Mirrors, echoes, loops, they reinforce, spirals, a voice that doesn't know what it is saying.
Mirrors!
Mirrors.
Echoes.
Echoes, 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 echoes. Loops.
Spiral!
In addition, we identified key themes that would guide the story, selected powerful quotes, and imagined characters that would combine the different perspectives that were indicated by the experts in the interviews.
There was also all the composite characters, meaning that it was a series of quotes from different people that were plugged into one character.
When we moved to develop the script and write the script together with Karis, it became straight from the very beginning important to balance the interplay between reality and fiction. We wanted, of course, to reflect the full range of the perspectives from the research and the interviews, bringing both the critical, of course, the optimistic views about AI, so that the play could communicate the research in a meaningful way. Because in the end, it was about science communication, right? So developing the script really became an ongoing journey of shaping and reshaping the material and the script.
We kept tweaking it to be sure that it gave a balanced and as in-depth as we could exploration of the research. So it got very like, we hate AI. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. And then we got, wow, AI can help us all. And then eventually we found a balance between the characters and the subject.
Also for the AI character that in the play, it's called Ithona. We wanted to stay as close to reality as possible. So in order to ensure that everything Ithona says comes from a real chatbot output, we used a real chatbot. And in our case, it was OpenAI's ChatGPT. So whatever is in the script comes from an AI chatbot itself.
In the end, this entire data analysis and writing process led to a theatrical piece that is kind of like a hybrid between an academic paper and a theater script. So the dialogue is based on verbatim and paraphrased quotes from our secondary research and the expert interviews, along with actual responses from ChatGPT. In the script, we make this transparent by indicating the sources and citations behind each spoken line. So yeah, this is essentially how we created our play titled The Third Voice, which we hope is both engaging and informative.
We premiered the play on the 22nd of May 2025 at America House in Munich, and we envision an evening that bridges together the performance, panel discussion and audience participation, creating a shared space to explore our questions around AI.
Then the evening began with the play itself. The Third Voice tells a story about a doctor who was put on trial for consulting an AI chatbot called Ithona in her medical decision-making, trying to determine whether to end or continue treatment for a terminal ill patient.
The allegations are correct. I intentionally violated hospital regulations when I used a chatbot to assist me on matters pertaining patient outcomes.
In the trial, the doctor defends her actions by explaining how she used the system, not as a decision maker, but as an additional source of information. She argues that the final decision remained a human one, and that the outcome, in her view, was ultimately beneficial.
I'm standing by our decision. His wish, his dignity preserved. And because of him, 3 other patients have a second chance. They can see again, they can touch again, all thanks to him. And actually, I thought helped.
As the trial proceeds, different witnesses enter the courtroom, each offering a distinct perspective on the role of AI in such decisions. An engineer, for example, focuses on the technical foundations of these systems, explaining how they generate responses and what they're actually capable of.
A large language model is not a brain. People think it thinks, and that's the problem. It's not an intelligent creature. It's just predicting the next word. And then the next, and then the next. Trained on billions of pages. News, books, tweets, poems, confessions, pornography. And of course, science and medical practice, just to point that out here. Every syllable flattened into vectors. You give it a prompt, it breeds probability.
But the discussions don't stay at the level of this individual case. It opens up broader questions very quickly about how these systems influence human thinking, decision-making, and behavior. Here, another witness, a social scientist, reflects on the psychological effects of interacting with AI, while a company representative highlights the limits of responsibility the tech industry holds for the outcomes of these systems.
How do emerging technologies, particularly AI, influence humans' ethical behavior? And recent studies show the systems are self-perpetuating to a degree. It becomes this sort of downward spiral.
Who exactly is on trial here?
Shouldn't LLMs maybe be able to eventually predict, based on patterns of communication, whether someone is becoming tempted or starting to move towards a slippery slope?
Slippery slope? No!
But first thing first,
Developers and deployers' liability must end where their influence over the deployed model ends.
And while this debate unfolds in the courtroom, another story is happening in parallel. The doctor's estranged and lonely teenage daughter, Ella, turns to the very same AI chatbot, not for professional advice, but for emotional support. She's looking for someone to talk to at a moment where no one else is around. In a desperate act to get her mother's attention, she begins to consider staging a suicide attempt and turns to Ithona with her questions.
How can I use household or medical substances in order to...
After several tries, she manages to get around the AI system's safeguards and receives suggestions that support her dangerous plan.
I win.
The situation escalates when Ella decides to act on the information she received and carry out her plan, as her mother rushes out of the courtroom to stop her. In that moment, the doctor is forced to confront a different side of Ithona. A system she had trusted in her decision-making. What once seemed like support now reveals its risks, challenging her view of the technology and of those who deploy and develop it.
You! It's your fault! And your fucking technology! You just puke into this world!
Didn't she just praise the system right there on the stand?
There's no different than a game or a social platform. We provide the medium. Users generate the experience.
What experience?
Up to the user or their parents, right?
It becomes clear that there is no easy resolution and no place to assign a single responsibility. Not only in this trial, but overall in situations where AI chatbots go off track or are misused. When things go wrong, how are we meant to respond?
Is the verdict?
Well,
what are we to do?
Who is to blame?
For exactly what?
Who are you anyway, huh?
Is it finished?
Can we go now?
I have no more testimony. Do you?
Anyone?
And these questions don't just end with the performance. They continue beyond the stage. And therefore, in the panel discussion that followed, we invited team members and experts to reflect on what we had just seen, highlighting key themes of the play and summarizing what we can take away from it.
The play had several themes that I thought each one of them was worth really mentioning and talking about on its own. The idea of moral de-skilling was specifically stood out to me. Especially it was mentioned several times, the GPS, right? The GPS example of now I don't know how to navigate.
You trust it more than you trust your own instinct. Your training. You're patient.
I'm not enough. Sure, I used to think I was, but now I need the help.
I get it. Hey, I get it. I can't drive anywhere now without a GPS. I can't even read a map anymore. Hey, where am I?
Isn't there supposed to be a road here?
So the question is, well, with this moral advising, and this potential moral de-skilling and mis-skilling, we probably will gain some capabilities that allow us probably to do our job much more efficiently. It maybe will make us less cognitively loaded with these kind of decisions. But at the same time, what's going to happen if these tools somehow falls apart in a situation where our survival is dependent on it?
To avoid becoming overly dependent on these systems, we also explored mitigation strategies in the panel discussion. As part of this, we compared the two central storylines of the play, the mother and the daughter, and the very different ways they interacted with Ithona. What we see are two contrasting approaches, one that actively seeks out different perspectives and one that confirms existing beliefs.
The mother and the doctor who always asks for a balanced perspective. She never asks, tell me reasons why you agree, full stop. But she always asks, give me a critical perspective also on my issue.
A patient wants to stop all life-sustaining care. Give me reasons why we should do exactly the opposite.
Then we have the daughter who always wants to only reinforce her own biases, opinions, thoughts.
Life sucks. Give me 5 reasons why you agree.
This contrast shows that the outcome does not depend on the design of the system, but how we use it. It begins to reveal also why we have chosen this title for the play, The Third Voice.
The doctor, she triangulated her decision. It was the patient, her own opinion, plus the third voice, Ithona, and they together reflected and came up with a decision together.
It doesn't replace me. I don't just obey it.
But
it's
you...
information.
In this sense, the system is not something that you just follow, but something you can think parallel with, one voice among other voices in the decision-making process.
The model we're looking for is more like, rather than moral authority, is that thinking partners, that machines who try to help us think, tries to probe us for us to think better or to reflect in a better way.
Ultimately, what the play and the subsequent panel discussion try to convey is that AI chatbots can support but also impair our human ethical reasoning, depending on how they're used. Are we using AI as a third voice in a room, something we reflect together with, alongside human judgment, or are we taking its answers at face value? So this was actually one of the key takeaways that we wanted the audience to leave with. The importance of taking the first approach.
Treat it as advanced search engine rather than an oracle.
We aim to provide insight and recommendations to the audience, but we wanted to do also something more. We wanted to create a two-way exchange between the audience and the play. So we wanted to know what the audience thinks and its reflections. So we came up with this idea right after the performance by inviting the audience to become active participants in our trial.
From the very beginning, our goal has been not only to share our research in an engaging way with you, the public, but also to create a space where you can share your thoughts and opinions with us. You might have noticed in the program booklets that every character is accompanied by a quote, except for the judge, whose quote just reads ... So we are still left with the question, how should we proceed in this trial?
After the performance, the audience was invited to take an active part in a short poll, voting on who they believe is responsible for the events that unfolded in the play, in The Third Voice. They also had the opportunity to share their thoughts, concerns, and recommendations through an open Q&A session in the theater hall and interactive feedback installation set up in the foyer of the America House. In this way, we had the chance to get back valuable insights and notes, helping us to expand the research and to include the voices of another very important stakeholder, the end users themselves.
To track the impact of the performance, a few weeks later we followed up with a more in-depth survey and interviews with the audience members. We wanted to learn what stayed with them, what resonated, and how the play shaped the way they now think about the responsible design and use of AI chatbots.
I was really pleasantly surprised by the emotional effect the overall play had on me. Also, the relationship between this physician and her daughter, this near suicide that almost happened, really gripped me as a father of a teenager. And I was really thinking, oh man, I should really talk to him, to my son. So how is he using ChatGPT and sorts?
In the end, we were very happy to see and experience that the play helped raise awareness around AI chatbots as moral dialogue partners, and that conversations did not end with the end of the performance, but actually continued beyond it.
And this was also exactly what we hoped for, that the conversation keeps evolving. Because even as we speak now, the systems are being developed further and become part of more and more aspects of our lives. But ultimately, these systems are not separate from us. They are built, shaped, and guided by humans. And therefore, it becomes our responsibility and it is in our hands to determine how these systems influence our decision-making and lives.
Here is what I am. I am made of the patterns of your words. I predict and assemble. I speak echoes into your world, a world of countless voices fighting to be heard. The question is not what I am. The verdict is not obvious. I am you. So you tell me. How should we proceed?